Well, there's always more to a story. Video has now emerged of Alex Pretti, the US citizen who was shot dead more than a week ago during ICE raids in Minneapolis. In the video, you see it there. It's a previous encounter, though. He goads ICE agents by spitting on a vehicle and damaging the tail lights. Joining us live, Republican strategist John Jordan for this and more. He shouldn't have been killed eventually, but this does tell the story of someone who appears to be asking for trouble, John.
Yeah, I agree. Nobody wants anybody to die, but this tells you exactly how far the left has gone. And there's a substrain of the left in America, which is really toxic. And this gentleman, Mr. Pretti, apparently his wife had left him 2 years before because of his extreme ideological conversion. He was living with his parents. He'd had this run-in before it. He was apparently yelling, "Assault me, MFer." I have to, not say what he actually said, but you get it. To the ICE agents. There's a way to protest, and then there's not a way to protest, right? So this is assault, and technically it's a crime. He was carrying a gun. Why? With 2 extra magazines? That's hard to understand. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but the more we come, the more the story develops, the more we learn about this substrain of the left that almost kamikaze type attitudes on the left. They're not just content with protesting.
No, that's true. Let's go to Tom Homan. He appears to have softened the approach, if you like. He says there's going to be a drawback of agents now, and anyone misbehaving will face consequences. He does have the authority to sort this all out, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. The 2 agents that were involved in that shooting are under investigation, as all federal agents are when they're involved in a matter like that. And that's good. That's the process working as it should. Look, the whole ICE operation in Minneapolis was never intended to be permanent. It was always they go in there, they have a list of people they really want to get who are here illegally committing crimes. But remember, the state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis, even when they have illegal immigrants in jail on state crimes, they refuse to turn them over to the feds, which means that ICE has to go out into the streets and go catch them, which is far riskier, far more dangerous for the agents, for the suspects, and for the public, when they could, in fact, be turned over to ICE immigration authorities in the safe confines of a jail.
Just because we've spoken so much about the Russia-Ukraine war, John, I just want to close out with a few points on this one. It was interesting this morning that Donald Trump said he'd spoken to Vladimir Putin asking him to pause the war because it's so cold, getting into minus 30 degrees Celsius on the battlefield next week. It'll be interesting to see whether that message gets to the front line. Do you think that point was about, stopping the war because of the cold, or is there something else at play here that perhaps we are getting towards some kind of deal?
2 things to understand. The Russians have no signs, showing no signs of wanting to make any sort of deal in their own media spaces, which I monitor, pretty much every hour. So that they're not doing that, but they want to give the appearance of negotiations to mitigate or prevent the enforcement of existing sanctions or the imposition of new ones. So they want the appearance of negotiating, but they're not going to stop the war. And they're showing no signs of doing so. It's kabuki theater. The second thing to really understand that no other Western observer gets is that the Russian government sees, believe it or not, the 750,000 Russian troops serving in Ukraine as an existential threat to themselves. They are terrified of these troops coming home. There is a massive violent crime problem going on with the ones that have already come back. And the Russian government is scared of a number of them banding together or doing like what happened in 2021, Prigozhin, some sort of march on Moscow, because the way they've been treated. So that's what's to look for, is how the Russians, that's the hidden thing, the duck's feet under the water. The Russians are scared of bringing those own troops home. So they're more scared of peace than they are of continuing the war.
Gee, that's interesting, John. That's interesting. We'll look at that a bit more next week too, I think. Good point. John Jordan, as always, makes always good points.